this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Kacey Kingry, breakthrough coach and a super podcast host. Welcome to the show, Kacey.
Thank you, AJ. I'm so happy to be here with you and talk all things breakthrough and transformation.
Absolutely, absolutely. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India. Welcome, and I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what you are going to talk about. We'll be talking about total transformation, how to achieve total transformation, and that is where your whole all inputs will help us understand. You support growth oriented individuals to break through their cycles that prevent them from living whole. So let's start with that. What does living whole is all about? Help us understand from your perspective, and then we'll come to the other questions.
Yeah, that sounds like a wonderful place to start. I feel like, people have hangups in their lives. And I think that, the way that we live in this modern society is that people kind of think that they are just destined to carry their burdens forever. That sort of we are born, we struggle, and then we die type of thing. And I know that might sound kind of morose, but I think that that's kind of the rhythm that people get into. But I believe that we were here to transcend our struggles, that our struggles were here to teach us and to grow us and to expand us. And so I just don't think that people know how good they can feel on the other side of their burdens. And so I'm here to help them set down these historical burdens that they've been carrying for so long that they've become a part of their personality or just a part of their lives, and free up that space so they can really become the people that they were born to be.
Right, right. So why do they get stuck, and what keeps them stuck that they need to break through from? Is it about people? Is it about things? Is it about memories? Is it about something else? Is it about universe? People can get caught into that prison of their own minds. Help us understand these parts.
Yeah.
What do people come to you for?
Well, my particular breakthrough that I experienced in my personal life was one with alcoholism. So I'm coming up on celebrating 5 years of being alcohol free. And I just know from struggling with that for more than 20 years, pretty much my whole adult life, is that, there's very much the belief that once you're an addict, you're always an addict. And that just wasn't something that I was content with. That's not what healing means to me, that once you've struggled with something, it means you're going to always struggle with it for the rest of your life. And so I help a lot of my clients break through their alcoholic cycles, but I help people break through cycles of perfectionism, of people pleasing, of thinking they're in the wrong relationship, of judging their body image. And really what happens, AJ, is that we become accustomed to our burdens on all these different levels. And the yoga teaches us that there are different levels of us inside, the koshas, the layers. And so really what happens is these cycles get embedded on all these different levels. They get embedded into our physiological cycles. They get embedded into our thought cycles, our mental cycles. They really get embedded into our emotions, into our nervous systems, the way we habitually feel inside of ourselves. So anything you want to change and turn into something new and different, you have to look at it on all of those different planes, on all of those different levels, and work to sort of unwind it in those different ways, and then rewind it also in those other levels. So really change takes place holographically, holistically, and that's something that I'm very, very passionate about helping people through.
Wonderful, wonderful. All these areas are very interesting ones. I would like you to understand for the audience about perfectionism. I thought being perfect was something very good, till some time back, but now it has become a problem. And so, how does it work? Till what is the extent that one should strive for being good about something? When is it that it starts becoming aiming for perfectionism, and then it becomes a problem that needs to be taken care of? Help us understand who should strive for perfectionism, for who it is not. I believe only a surgeon should strive for perfectionism. Maybe an engineer should strive for perfectionism while building bridges. You should strive for perfectionism when you are driving a car. That sort of thing. But how does it become a negative? Where does it end? And what do actually happen to people? How do you help them advise to be perfectly imperfect?
I love this. Those are really good points that you bring up, that there are actually appropriate times to apply perfectionism. I think that perfectionism becomes problematic when we adopt it as our way of being and as the only way that we can be successful or worthy in this life. I don't know what it's like in India, but I know in this Western world that we are very, very caught up in this Judeo Christian mindset of right and wrong, good and bad, evil, good and evil, all of these things. It's very, very dualistic, and our minds are suffering it from it, I believe, because really there's only two buckets. I'm either right or I'm wrong. And so people will just desperately do anything to put themselves in that right bucket. But the problem is they never, the right that they're subscribing to is like all this old conditioning, all these old rules that they never agreed to. So people are trying to be right, but it becomes sort of this prison for them. It becomes this cycle of, I can only feel worthy, I can only feel good about myself, I can only, give what I have to give if I do it a certain way, if it looks a certain way, if it checks this certain box. And so again, that works really, really well if you can make sure everything you do checks that box. But then what happens when you're unable to perform outside of that expectation for yourself? Then that means that inevitably you have to be wrong, right? If you can't get it right, then that means that you're inevitably wrong. And so that creates a lot of pressure, and it creates a lot of stress that people just don't need to live with. So yes, I think I ascribe more to virtuosity, to putting your best foot forward, to always giving your best in the moment, whatever that is. But I subscribe to a more, what I perceive to be a yogic philosophy, is that there is no right or wrong, there is no good or bad. It all just simply exists along this human spectrum of beingness. And our job as humans isn't necessarily to get it right. It's just to be whole, to experience the whole thing, to allow ourselves to experience all of the emotions, all of the sensations, all of the experience that life has to offer. I don't know about you, but that sounds, at least I don't, at least that I don't have to control it. I can just be with life that way. And that sounds a little bit more appealing. I don't know, from my perspective anyway.
You have explained that very, very well. I talk to a lot of people. Not everyone is able to explain this thing. I must tell you, Casey. So that I will give you that, and that is why I was trying to. I was happy to listen to what you were saying, and only a person who knows these things from experience, from understanding, from others' pains, they will be able. Imperfection and perfection people keep on talking about, but not everybody. And it's good that audience will understand more about this concept about being imperfect, perfectly imperfect, and also the negatives of perfect, something called perfectionism. I will come to the yoga part certainly, because that's an interesting thing, especially being from this part of the world, and it's nice to see that it's helping a lot of people. But you also, first let's go to the transformation part, that you talk about going inwards for transformation. Help us understand how you explain this part to that part of the world which is so much about, a lot of about other things, that on weekends you need to move out. So people who are so working hard to move out of their houses, how do you force them to go inward and think about their transformation?
Well, that's a good question, because I feel like sometimes in my journey and my work, it's almost like, even just to help people to understand enough to even want to move forward with coaching, you have to kind of sift through some of these barriers, because definitely, what we're conditioned to in the West is that our happiness lies outside of us. that if you want to be happy, then you need to configure the circumstances around you to create happiness, which means certain house, certain car, certain job, certain family. So all these outer circumstances. And the yoga says, no, 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 that's an exercise in futility. You're going to waste all your breath. You're going to waste all your energy trying to cling to these circumstances on the outside. So the yoga and then my coaching as an extension, I would say that if you want to change what you experience out there, that really out there is just a microcosm of what's happening with each of us on the inside. So really, if you want to change the outer world, it starts granularly on your experience in your inner world. It's about how you're thinking about your world, how you're feeling about your world, and this combination of the thoughts and feelings inside of you that are then participating and creating the world that you experience outside of you. And that's not to say, I know that a lot of people are facing socioeconomic factors that they can't simply think and feel their way out of. And despite that, I still believe that if we want to create a different experience for this broken world that we're living in, it starts with each of us claiming our wholeness and our health on the inside. And I wholeheartedly believe with every cell of my body that if each individual would do this work of purifying, of being authentically themselves, of getting rid of their burdens, of coming to places of true healing with the things that hang them up. If each of us could do that, I think that we would turn on the news and we'd see something very different. I think that we would look out in the world and things would be better. I truly believe that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Going out is not bad. It's that's a culture and people that is good about. It is to bring that stark contrast of going living an outwardly life and living a life where you know a bit more about yourself. And that is where it can be cultural. It has nothing to do with individuals, and that is where the whole idea is to learn a lot. Like even in India, we have a lot of issues, lot of problems, and the whole idea is that keep your windows open, let the good air come into your life, and that is where we learn so many the good things from outside. In the same way, understand the different parts of the world and get the good things. At the end of the day, it is about some boundaries created by man himself that separates us. Rather than beyond that, there is nothing that separates us. It is one God,
Mm,
one humanity, one earth, and one thing to achieve is that the betterment of humanity. You can eat as much, drink as much, but at the end, it is about knowing ourselves. So that is how I look at this. Long back, in India, saints used to say when there was no world that they knew about, thousands of years back, they used to talk about this word called Vasudev Kutumbakam, the Kutumbakam. That it means, the world is a family. That is why, in that context,
mm,
I bring this. And that is where we will come to yoga. You talk about yoga, and it is such a nice thing that you are getting the yoga part to people's life. It is almost like you are doing a great service to people, even though it is a part of your work. But this is almost so. I want to understand from you, how do you explain the wisdom of yoga? Is it more about breath? Is it more about that whole vehicle into which you can transform or journey inwards? Also, how did you get across yoga? Did you go to yoga, or yoga come to you?
Oh, this is such a beautiful inquiry. Thank you so much. Y- first of all, as a white woman teaching yoga in the West, I just want to say thank you for sharing this resource truly with the whole globe and the whole world. And I think it's important to say that, like, I don't take that lightly. And that I do my best to always honor yoga's roots. And the way that I like to do that is by making the practice more than just about the body and the muscles and the physical appearance, but really like making yoga something that isn't just something that we cross off our list and do, but that it becomes part of who we are. And so I really see yoga as a tool for processing, and I see the body as a gateway to all of the deeper places within. So if we can process through the body, if we can let things go and call things in through the gateway of the body, then that tells me that we can also experience that same type of change in our hearts, in our spirits, in our minds. And so the yoga is simply a vessel for processing, for us to go deeper than just the somatic layer and to explore the deeper parts of us. And so yoga really has, I'm 46 years old. I started practicing in my early 20s. I've been teaching since 2007, and so it's been a big part of my life. And I've been through a lot of change with my sobriety and all sorts of things. And yoga has really been this golden thread that has held me safe and centered through all the ups and downs in my life. And truly, it's I think it's such a gift, and this beautiful technology that we have been given on what it means to be human. And so with my students and with my clients alike, I try to use, change, like I mentioned in the beginning, change. A lot of coaches will just say, change your mind, change your life. That your results are a product of your thoughts. And while I believe that's true, I don't think it's quite that simple. I think that our thoughts are the root of most of the things that are happening in our lives, but it's the thoughts that they create feelings in our bodies that create our internal emotional state. And it's actually that emotional state that pushes everything. So really identifying this relationship between the thoughts and the feelings and being able to move things through the body. I guess what I'm trying to say is that change doesn't just take place in the mind. It takes place in the mind, and we have to unwrap it inside of the body. And yoga gives people an anchor by which to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. A thing like that is about the world. It is not about one country. It can originate from one place, but it has to travel all through the world. And just because it has originated in this part of the world does not mean everybody practices it earlier on. But it is nice to see. Even for me, I sometimes do it, but I am not a regular about it. Earlier, people used to find yoga with those different postures being difficult, but of late, especially in the last 20, 30 years, some people have worked very hard to make it very easy for people to do the breathing exercises. And that is where a lot of people have come into understanding yoga better, even in this part of the world. And it is nice to see that more and more people are making use of such a scientific thing, something that can benefit everyone. It has nothing to do with anything else, and it is nice to know that you are doing it in such a nice way. Casey, you talk about heart chakra. You also talk about your life coaching is Lotus Life Coaching, and Lotus
Mm-hmm.
means a lot of, it has a lot of meaning in this part of the world. Help us understand a bit about, so that the audience also know. In India, few people know about, a lot of people know, but this show is a global show. A lot of people will know what
Yeah.
is this heart chakra all about, what is this Lotus Life Coaching all about, how did you get the Lotus part into the life coaching thing?
Yes, I have so much gratitude for India and for the gift of yoga and for the peacock and for the lotus flower and just so much wisdom and ancient teachings and just so much um, beautiful imagery. So I just have so much gratitude. Um, the lotus flower feels like a big representation for my life, the way I live my life, and the way I run my business and coach my clients. And it's modeled after Thich Nhat Hanh's famous "No mud, no lotus." And it is my profound belief that in life, every single person is going to get dirty because life is going to life all over us no matter what we do. And it's just going to keep on going. So while everyone gets dirty, I do not believe that every single person is going to choose to use the dirt as fertilizer to enhance their growth and to evolve and to stretch and to improve. And that's really what I help my clients do is take the obstacles, take the resistance, take the pain and make something useful of it. Take what has happened to you and use it for your good. Burn through the fire like tapas. Grow into the diamond. And so I really I'm not here to say that life has to be hard in order for you to grow or get what you want, but I am saying that life is embedded with challenges. And instead of trying to numb them or get them over with as soon as possible or just skip over them like they didn't happen, what would happen if we opened ourselves up and leaned into the hard times in life, leaned into the lessons that life wanted to teach us, and let it change us, let it grow us, let it mold us? It's a really beautiful thing in my experience when we can be courageous enough to lean in.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the beautiful part is that when you get your transformation, you are a different person. But for a lot of people, how do they know that their transformation has happened and that they are a new person? How do you feel? How do you tell them, listen, your time with me is over, you have transformed? How did you feel for yourself?
That's so amazing. Well, I have a lot of clients that choose to stay with me because they like the support, but what was I going to say about that? There was something that really came to me. The work that I do with clients, it's kind of funny because people are really conditioned, I think through Hollywood and the movies, to expect this like one and done, this great big revelation that they have one epiphany and it's like, la, and the clouds part, and all of a sudden their lives are different. And sometimes that happens, and sometimes that happens in smaller doses. But in my experience, this work is about little micro changes over time, even to the degree that in the moment you're like, this doesn't really feel like much. And then you just kind of keep doing that again and again, week after week after week. And all of a sudden, you wake up and you look around and you say, oh my gosh, how did I get here? Life is completely different. I am different. And it's sort of this like, long, slow burn, and then it seems to kind of happen overnight. And it's this really beautiful moment that I get to witness in my clients where they suddenly they put in the work and they put in the work and they look around and they say, "Oh wow, these little micro changes really added up to something spectacular." It's pretty beautiful.
Absolutely something spectacular, and it's actually very nice and spectacular to talk to you, Casey. But there is so much to learn, so much to talk, and especially for people who want to know more about you, about the way you do your work, people who want to learn from you, people who want to transform with you with your knowledge. How do they connect with you? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so just going to my website, which is kind of a mouthful, it's lifecoachingbylotus.com. And if you just go to my homepage, you can see all my offerings. I love to work with people one on one. That is my jam. I usually work with people 6 months at a time, and we can accomplish some big, big, lasting change in that amount of time. But I also have a Patreon community that people can join, and I offer lots of different yogic tools, pranayama breath practices, different kriyas, mudras, tools for the journey that people will actually use to support them. So I have a lot of different ways to work with me. And if you head over to my website at lifecoachingbylotus.com, you can see those different ways.
Wonderful, wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, AJ.